Hello and welcome to the AT Center at TCNJ. This webinar series is facilitated by the Inclusive 365 team and focuses on inclusive practices. The Inclusive 365 team specializes in helping organizations create more inclusive educational environments. They are known for the book Inclusive Learning 365, EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year, and provide services to organizations such as book studies, webinars, and consultation to help educators develop and implement inclusive strategies. The team consists of 4 professionals: Christopher Bugaj, Karen Janowski, Beth Poss, and Mike Marotta. Join them as they introduce practical strategies you can implement immediately in your environment to promote inclusive practices. This is Module 8, Inclusive Strategies for STEAM. These webinars are made possible through our partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education. The statements issued by guest presenters do not reflect the stance of the NJDOE OSC. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice. Let's listen to the Inclusive 365 team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to, Chris, should we say yet another Inclusive Learning 365 webinar? Maybe your first, maybe your 9th, maybe somewhere in between. We don't know. Hello. It's good to be here with you. You have us talking today about STEAM. I'm very excited. Chris is pumped, by the way. This might be one of the few times you hear me he is going. He already warned me. He's got stories. He's got things to share. You better all buckle in. So I don't know, Chris, why wait? Let's just jump in.
Let's do it. Of course, we do have the QR code, right?
Yep.
Get the slides, because throughout the rest of the slides, there are hyperlinks to resources that you might want to use. So yeah, definitely have a 2-screen experience if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure. And we say it every once in a while, and these will remind you again. You're watching us on a recording, pause and go out and explore. And that's the beauty of watching these in a recording, is that in a live webinar, you're frantically scribbling down notes that make no sense 10 minutes after you're done. Here, pause us, like Chris says, hit a second screen and go off and go find this stuff out. So we're excited to have that experience. We will not be offended when you pause us and go away. It's okay. Who are we? There's two out of the 4 of us. As you've been watching these, you've seen different variations of 2 of us out of the 4. I'm Mike Marotta. I am an AT specialist from New Jersey. I'm the director of our AT program in the state. When I pay for my own business cards, I call myself an inclusive technology evangelist, because I like the way that sounds. And I feel like that's what I spend most of my time doing, is screaming from the rooftops about how great inclusive technology can be in classrooms. So happy to be here with you.
And I'm Chris Bugaj. I am the Assistive Technology Specialist for Loudoun County Public Schools, which is up in the northern part of Virginia. If you see me sipping my coffee today, though, it's out of a Patriots mug, not because I'm a Patriots fan, Mike. Everyone knows, right? My wife is the Patriots fan. I'm the Buffalo Bills fan. So I'm originally from Buffalo, moved down to Virginia, and I work with a team of special educators. They're called Specialized Instructional Facilitators for Assistive Technology. So I'm the specialist that supports about 100 schools, and this team of 9 people fan out across those schools to help educators design awesome inclusive experiences for everyone, which I have a couple stories I'm going to share the rest about what just real down to earth, practical in school stuff that people are doing.
I love it. Chris and I are very passionate about this section. I know I am. I will frequently tell people the story that I did not start my professional career as an educator. I'm an engineer. That's what I went to school for. So if you want to take something apart, put something back together, create something from scratch, I'm your guy. I love stuff like this. In fact, Chris, I probably should have put a picture of my first job in New Jersey as an AT person. I was part of a program that was a mobile statewide program, and I drove around New Jersey in a giant box truck that had a full workshop in the back. And I would drive up to a school or a center or wherever I might be. I'd go in and talk to the team, and they would say, here's what we need done, and here's kind of the problems we're having. Can you help us? Mm-hmm. And I would leave, and I'd go out to the parking lot. I'd pull down the door, and the whole truck would shake and dust would shoot out of the corners. And then I'd open it up, and I'd have something that I created and gave them that hopefully would help them with the student they were working with. And all for free. I mean, it was all grant funded. It was the best thing ever. Just driving around building stuff. So I am excited. Let's dig in. But before we dig in, what do you want to say?
Well, this slide has been in all the videos. So if this is your first video, buckle up. You're going to see this slide, 8 more times. But what this is that the 4 of us got to write a book together, Inclusive Learning 365, EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year. The idea behind that book is that it's 1 strategy per page. So there's an opening section that helps with develop sort of an inclusive mindset and frames the rest of the book. But then the vast majority of the book is 1 strategy per page with different sections, STEAM being one of those sections. And then the most recent development is we got to work on these cards. We created these cards called Tips to Activate Inclusive Learning. And there are 50 cards. Many of them are strategy cards, but a handful of them are sort of inclusive question cards. And the way educators have been using them, and just as how we planned it, is that they're getting those and they're using those in professional learning experiences where they talk about the questions together in their CLTs or PLCs or whatever your team meetings are, or whole staff meetings, and then look at the strategies that are in the cards and discuss, what tools do we have that we could use to implement those strategies. So it's been cool to see social media wise, like people, sharing that they're using those, and hearing from ISTE and ASCD, which are the publishers of the cards, the stories, and how people are using them. It's an exciting time. So if you haven't, to click on that link there and go check them out.
Check them out for sure. Very cool. All right, we mentioned before, Chris, I did it to you again. I jumped onto your slide here.
I'm gonna have plenty, Mike, please.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna hijack Chris's slide. It's like the most boring slide ever. Hey, there's 9 parts to this series. Have you watched any of them yet? Question mark. If not, head back in and check them out. So as Chris mentioned, our book was broken up into different sections, 8 different sections. We have done one of these webinars for each section, highlighting some strategies, some tools, and some ways you could apply that within your learning environment. So check them out. If you haven't watched the Inclusive Mindset webinar first, that might be the only one I would say, why don't you try to catch that one kind of first-ish, either first or somewhere close. It kind of sets the table for everything else that we talk about. But there's all the other categories, and definitely check them out. Get some good experiences and some good resources for all those different sections.
In case you didn't know, STEAM is science, technology, engineering. There you go, Mike. Art and math. And we have a little bit of art, and I guess music fits in that art category as well. Like any of the arts fall in that art category. So we have strategies for all of these. And I find this, Mike, this is the one, of all the stuff that we do and all the ways we help kids and help educators, this is often the one people in assistive technology land feel most intimidated about. Do you know? Like, I can help with reading. I can help with writing. And there's tons of I don't know. I'm just not a math. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with math yet. I'm not, those sorts of, do you find that?
I do. I think that I think this across the board of STEAM is a little off center for a lot of people, a lot of educators. And so it is a little scary. This idea of incorporating these things into the learning space. I guess unless you're an engineer, I love this section. I could talk about this all day. And even the math part, I'm not totally afraid of. I'm not totally comfortable all the time, but I'm not afraid either to try it out. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that this is kind of nebulous to people. They're like, what are we talking about here? And they, I think there's part of what happens in this section that I don't know happens across the boards. And the other one is, I think you're relying a lot in the STEAM area on creativity and willingness to try things.
Mm.
And I think sometimes that scares people. Like, oh, I'm not creative, or I'm not good with my hands. I can't do things. And I think that's part of the scary piece, especially when I think about the slides that are coming up and some of the things we show. I think that might be a first gut reaction for some people to be like, oh, that's not me. I don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Mike, just adjacent to that point is all through at least my education, I bet you're similar, and I bet people watching are going to have similar experience. The way school was designed for us was learn content, give that content back out to show that you know it, and if you don't, then you got a percentage wrong, right? And failure was not a good thing. You know, it was like, get it right, get it right, get it right. And STEAM is not like that. It is give it a try and then iterate on that design until you eventually get better. Fail forward, right? And
Yeah.
as Karen always says, fail is first attempt in learning. That's what this is about. Quick story number one. I work with one of the facilitators. Her name is Katie that I work with. She was working with a student that needed a switch, and the switch, it needed to be a proximity switch. So he had this very refined movement, very fine movement that he could do. And the proximity switch, meaning for people that are not familiar, it's a switch that you move something over it or nearby it and it activates the switch. So like if you walk into a room, the light goes on, you know, that sort of thing. Same idea. But what she needed was she could not find one that was refined enough to just pick up his subtle movement. He could move some muscles, but she didn't want to put like a piece of tape on him or something because it gets, what's the word, Mike? You know, when you get like, it gets annoying to have a piece of tape on you
Oh,
all
yeah,
the time.
like irritated.
Irritated. That's the
Yeah.
word. Thank you. So something nearby, and she could not find one. She's like, I went on the market. Asked me. I went to ATIA, Assistive Technology Industry Association conference. Walked around to all the vendors. We are on the hunt trying to find a proximity switch that it will work with this fine movement. And the call to action here is, if it doesn't exist in the world, and you recognize that hole, then it's on you to fix it. Like that's been a mantra for our team. And so Katie embraced it. She's like, well, if this doesn't exist, I guess I have to build it. And so she, again, it's easier than ever, but it's still hard because generative AI, she didn't know how to code, which it takes a little coding to build these switches and the programming that goes with it. Long story short, a year later, the student has something that never existed on the planet before. She built it. And it took her multiple steps of try, fail, learn. Okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. Let's try this. So eventually got the student the tools she needed. And I feel like that has not been the traditional education of fail forward. It's been get it right or what's wrong with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting too, you know, we're in this time where technology does so many things for us and people expect instantaneous results, which is sometimes different, as you described, from what we do in this experience, which is iterative. And it is, okay, let's make it a little better this time. And okay, it's not going to be perfect, but let's keep moving on and keep going forward. And sometimes that's tricky for people to kind of wrap their heads around at times. Like, why isn't it just working right off the bat? Well, I don't know. We're going to figure it out as we go. And we're going to keep trying to figure it out. All right. Chris has set you up with his first story. Let's see what he does as he goes forward. You better hold on. You guys are in luck today because I honestly don't find my voice that pleasant anyway. So I won't talk anyway. So this is great. Here we go, Chris. Hit him. Go.
All right, here's story number 2, fresh off the presses, Mike. This is from an email that I was just checking my email before we hopped on this webinar. So like the story from today, okay? So one of my other facilitators that I work with, her name's Jen, and she just sent me an email that said, Chris, check out what's happening at this school. And then I read through it. So Jen, one of the facilitators, is meeting with each school has an instructional technology coach. So this person, their job is to help educators infuse technology or develop lessons with technology in mind. And so she partnered with that person and then a handful of other people to do a design challenge for all the fifth graders in this school to design an inclusive playground. So, Mike, here you are years ago telling the story about how you were this guy in a van going around helping. And now
Not
there's
nearly as creepy as what he just described. I'm not just some guy in a van just driving.
um, but now we have whole schools of fifth graders that are mini Mikes doing this, going, okay, well, all right, and so the teachers are focusing them in on here's the problem. Our playground is not inclusive. We have friends in our school that can't access all the equipment. Sure, we could go buy stuff, but we want you to help us figure out either what to build or what to buy. Fifth graders have at it. And so the design challenge is going to take place, for the first quarter of the school year. And it goes multiple sessions where you set up the problem and you present the kids with this authentic problem. You would give them time to research and learn about that problem. Then they come up with potential solutions and designs. So in this case, they're going to have different playground equipment that they're going to design. They're going to build up little models of it in 3D, or when I say 3D, that could be 3D printing through Tinkercad. And if you're like, what's Tinkercad? That's coming. Well, we'll show you here in a bit. But it doesn't have to be. It can be low-tech makerspace, sort of clay, whatever you want to build, cardboard, whatever the thing is, you design your
Popsicle
model.
sticks, whatever.
Exactly. And then they're going to do a little showcase where they show off their work. So imagine a bunch of educators going around for, sort of like where the kids each have their own kiosk, like a share fair sort of thing.
Like a science fair kind of thing.
Exactly, showing off their work. Then the top 5 will be voted on by students and by the learners themselves and the educators that are supporting them. And then they'll work on those top 5 and present it to the PTA or the Parent Teacher Association to say, this is, we need money for these things, or we need time for these things, or whatever the plan is that comes out of it. But it's led by the educators that are designing it, but it's really student driven, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so point being is the slide here is creating a shared vision of an inclusive future right now, inviting learners right now to be part of designing an inclusive future is the name of the game. Like if that story just inspired you, that could be your thing this year. It's like, well, what if we did a small design challenge? And what if that maybe you're a speech therapist and you're like, I can't do all fifth grade. Okay, who can you do it with, right? And fifth grade is a grade, but it could be kindergarten. There's stuff you could build with preschoolers, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily some big grandiose thing. It can be small stuff, all built on the back of failing forward. These kids won't get a perfect thing out of the gate. They're prototyping and seeing how it works. But with the underlying current of we're designing for a more inclusive future.
I love it. It's a taste of where we're going to go in these slides, which are really fun.
Now, this particular slide is, and this particular image is about 2.5 years old, Mike, I think, right? And so what this is when generative AI first came out in the first couple of months, and those of us in assistive technology and inclusive design were working on it and working with it to see, well, what kind of stuff does it have and how's this going to work and what are the implications? One of the things we did is went over to a bunch of different AI tools that were generating images. Midjourney was one of the first ones out of the gate, and typed in a sentence like this: an astronaut wearing a space helmet. And what you'd get, many of these generative AI tools where they create images would give you options of like 4 things to pick. So I'm going to create 4, I being the generative AI. The person writes one prompt, it generates 4 images from that prompt, and then you choose the one that you think you like the best, right? So this was sort of how it's done. You would type that in, an astronaut wearing a space helmet, and they all looked like the gentleman with the orange in the second picture there, right? Because in the history of the world, there's probably been more people that look like this that have been astronauts. And if you're pulling from a large language model of history, then that's what it was. And so this leads to this bias that, oh, do astronauts mean guys that look like this, right? This picture is from Adobe Express, where they did some work to say, well, No, it does. That's not necessarily what an astronaut needs to be. Just because that's what it has been, that's not what the future necessarily has to be. And just because that's what it was, doesn't mean that's what it should have been. It could be anybody could be an astronaut. And so, as a notion of thinking about generative AI, and that we're again this undercurrent of thinking about engineering fields, STEAM fields, and working in STEAM, it's anybody's game, right? And anybody, no matter what your background, no matter what your abilities are, the belief is that that the future is inclusive and that STEAM is for everyone. The story number 3, Mike. Now this
I
one,
know.
you know the story, right?
I feel like I could tell this story. I'm not going to because it's not my story, but yes, go ahead. Yeah, I love this story. This
Okay.
story to me is the core of what we're trying to get across when we're talking about this. So I love this.
Okay. So once upon a time, in second
It's
grade,
never started as Once Upon a Time before, so this is fun.
um, in an elementary school in my neck of the woods, all the second graders get pulled down to the cafegimatorium. So, right, I mean, you have a cafegimatorium in your school, or if you know what I mean, right? It's all the big multi-purpose room, um, and they participate in this experience where the assistant principal comes out in front of them all. They're all sitting on the floor, and he is dressed. He's a kind of a big burly dude, and he's dressed in a beekeeper outfit. And he says, "Second graders, thank you all for joining me today to learn about bees. Hey, second graders, I bet you didn't know that your assistant principal is an amateur beekeeper." And they all, oh yeah. And he's like, "Okay, tell me, would you like to see my bees?" And of course, the kids go,
Well, yeah.
"Yeah, of course we want to see your
Of
bees. Yeah, yeah."
course.
And then he turns to slides decks and he goes like, "Well, let me tell you about bees. They live in colonies and they have a queen. Would you like to see my bees?" And I'll go, "Yeah, let me see." And then he goes, "Okay, let me show you some more. They make honey and they pollinate from flowers. And would you like to see my bees?" And the kids go, "Yes, we'd like to see your bees." And he goes, "Second graders, I'm so sorry. I can't show you my bees." And so, well, let's pause the video here, everybody. Why do you think he can't show them the bees? Is it because the bees might sting the kids? Slightly, but he can't even show like videos of his bees or pictures of his bees. And the reason is that his bees are dying. Second graders, I can't show you my bees because my bees are dying. Second graders, will you help me save my bees? So, not knowing that they were interested in it, this assistant principal just hooked every second grade student to say, "Yeah, we want to help you save the bees." And so they leave energized, saying, "We've got to help Mr. Brad save his bees." And they go back to their classrooms where the teachers go, "All right, well, how do we save bees? Anyone know?" And the students look at each other and go, "No, we don't know how to save bees. So, what do we need to do?" And they say, "Well, we have to research it." So, Mike, how do you think they researched it?
They went online,
They went
searched
online.
about bees. Sure.
That's right. So there's online searches, but what else?
Watched, well, they could watch videos, they could read books about it, they could ask other experts.
Exactly. Here we come out of the pandemic knowing how to do video conferencing. Let's call in some entomologists, I don't know, whatever the beekeepers' names are. Let's call those people in and ask them why bees are dying, right? So that's one. You said reading books. Don't you know that the librarians are already in on the planning of this? So when the second graders go down to the library and say, "Do you have any books on bees?" Well, lo and behold, they're already on the top shelf because the librarian has already pulled them because she already knows that that's already going to happen. So yes, here they are right here. So, and then there's podcasts and like you said, watching videos, multiple ways to learn the information. Okay, now we've learned it. We have to tell our grandmas and people that they use these pesticides and not these pesticides. We need to plant flowers and clovers. We need to make sure things are hydrated. Okay, so there's this campaign now. We know what we need to do. They haven't saved any bees yet, Mike. What do they have to do?
They gotta act, they gotta figure out what they're going to do.
Yes, exactly. So now they know, well, okay, we have to plant clover, but we're only one school of fifth grade or of second graders. We couldn't possibly plant enough clover. We have to spread this word around. So now they have to spread the word. So how do they spread the word?
Now look at them, their marketing campaign. I'm stuck on the picture on the page where it says QR code here. Right there's right, and I look at the bottom of the poster there, and right, it's getting the word out. It's spread the word. How can we?
That's exactly right. So this picture is my daughter, right? This is me taking a picture of my daughter. And because she's my daughter, she's on the poster making committee. You can see other kids around there making posters. When she's my daughter, there's going to be a QR code in the bottom. Where there's also a
Scan
video
me.
that says scan me. Okay, so there's a poster making committee. There's, if you look closely, there's another committee on this picture, and that is her t-shirt. There's a t-shirt making committee where kids have designed t-shirts. There's, you can kind of see towards the left underneath the crayons, there's like a slide with text on it that has been printed out. Yep, there's a Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation committee that they're going to show people. There's a video committee. There's a podcasting committee. Point being is there's all these different ways that kids can show what they know to be part of this campaign. Mike, real quick, where do you think these posters went?
Well, I think obviously they went around the school, but maybe they went even further. Maybe they went out in the community somewhere.
That's exactly right, right? If they went up in the school, who's going to see them? The fifth graders when they're
School.
dragging their hands along the wall and ripping them off? No, no one's going to stop and scan them or see them. So that's exactly right. We put them out in the community. Ours went into the Percival Family Restaurant. Do you know, like, in the front windows of stores or restaurants where people put their band posters or the festival that's coming up or whatever? Same thing. Hey, can we hang this poster here for a little while? So yeah, they were spread around the community. So the community knew that the school was working on saving bees and that's a thing, right? So all this to say is what is the whole point of this story is that my daughter would come home, could not wait to go back to school because she was empowered to make a change in the world to help save Mr. Brad's bees or bees beyond that. She wanted to do this work. It wasn't because it could be the standard was learn about different biomes or whatever. It could have been, here's your worksheet on bees, color the second grade. So color the queen and label the parts of the bee. Like it could have been that. And I'm sure and that would have met the standard and she would have learned it. Many kids would have then spit that back out on a test and move on with our day and not really give a hoot, not really learned how to solve anything, not really collaborate with anybody else. No art or creativity involved really, except I guess coloring in the queen bee. This hits all those other things and still learn the standard of, okay, and I could tell you for days now about bees because I'm so invested in working in this. And then Mike, if you look at the picture, any occupational therapist watching this will see that hand crooked around in there in the top left corner, and they'll be like,
I did see it. I've been watching that too.
So, there are students with different abilities. Could the student in the gray sweatshirt behind my daughter, right behind her head, could there be an AAC device right there? Sure, right? Mm-hmm. Could the student in the white shirt at the very, very top, you can just see the sleeve there, could that be a student with Down syndrome working in one of these committees? Yes. Everyone's using their abilities, growing their abilities, all learning, all collaborating, all creating, all problem solving, all doing critical thinking, all using multiple forms to express themselves based on the choice. This is called project-based learning. It's not just making a thing. Lots of times when people hear project-based learning, it's like, oh, well, I just make this paper plate clock. And no, it starts with an authentic problem, like bees are dying, or our playground is not inclusive, or higher grades, or it doesn't have to be higher, but let's just say my uncle had a heart attack or had a stroke and didn't get to the school or didn't get to the hospital fast enough. What can I do to promote stroke prevention, or what happens when people have whatever? There's no shortage of problems in the world, and we can invite our learners to attack those problems, all still meeting the standards, and using that STEM again. Okay, I'm going to engineer something here. I'm going to use my math skills to design how much space, what the budget's going to be for the clover, how much space we need. Let's measure out, and then how are we going to protect it? Like all that good learning around STEAM concepts with different abilities so that everybody's included, not in you're doing something different in a different place. Good stuff, right?
Yes. Did they save the bees?
Doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but it
It
doesn't really
matters, but
matter. It's
don't be
about
so
the learn.
anti-bee. I've been holding this one close, Chris, the whole time. Did they create a buzz in your community? You're welcome. That's it. I've been holding it. I was waiting to drop it in and I couldn't find, and I refused to take that one with me. I'm going to get that out there. All right. I feel bad.
That one stings, Mike. That one stings.
Nice. There we go. All right. All right, everyone. We've done it. Thanks for coming.
All right, right here in my hands, I'm holding the picture that's in there, right? So fast forward, that was when my daughter was in second grade. Now she's in seventh grade. And when she's in seventh grade, she's in the CTE class, Career Technical Education class. And again, this could be a scripted curriculum that you follow, but the teacher says, you know, and there's elements of that, but the teacher says, all right, come to me with something you want to learn about. What's a problem you want to solve? And in this case, my daughter, when she was in seventh grade, our trees in the lot adjacent to us, we used to have a sort of a wooded lot next to us. They got all torn down, and now we've got giant McMansions behind us. But when the trees got torn down, when my daughter was in seventh grade, she was like, well, what happens to all the birds that are living in those trees? Let's do some research. Is there a way we can help those birds that have been now displaced? And so she had to research what birds lived in our area, what they lived in, what the sort of habitat they have. And then she went over to the aforementioned Tinkercad, and she designed this in Tinkercad, which is a free 3D rendering modeling tool, where she created a birdhouse. And I just want to point out up here, the name of the teacher is Hendrix. And so she named it Hendrix House. And she put this 3D lettering at the roof of it, Hendrix House. But you'll note, Mike, when it printed, Hendrix House is not there, right? Well, why is that? This is, again, an example of failing forward. She put the words there, but in the design on the screen, she didn't actually push it in far enough to actually touch the roof. So in the screen, if I were to launch that in Tinkercad and turned it, you'd see there's a space between the letters and the roof, right? When she printed this, sure enough, it printed the house, but then it printed spaghetti because the letters didn't have anything to hook onto. And her first print, this is her first print, failed, right? This was not the one that we used. You'll note there's like a little slit here that rain would get in. That's not good, you know. First design, oh, why did this happen? Let me fix this, and then iterate on that design, right? If I really want Hendrix to be there, I can push it back. You've made the mistake. Learn from your mistake and move forward from them. Again, look at all this, the creativity. What do I want my design to look like? The functionality. I want it to hang up here, but maybe I decided I want it to be drilled in the back. But how would I get the drill in? How do I get? It's problem solving. What's the right size for the bird? So I got to measure the circumference and the diameter here. How big is it? All of that great practical math skills, as opposed to, again, all right, go in, learn the formula, learn how to do it, keep things in line, spit it back out in the test, forget it 10 days later. You know, no, this is going to stick with it forever.
Yeah, I love this idea. You know, I think as someone who started their career as an AT person solving problems for people with disabilities, this idea of us, the tools we have now, and thinking of this idea of 3D printing and creating these things in essence from scratch, it's such an awesome time to find ways to make these connections. One of my favorite stories was going to a school. I was working with a STEAM teacher in a middle school about different things, and something was going on, and we were trying to figure out how to make their class more inclusive for everyone in the school, because certain classes in the school didn't come to STEAM because that didn't seem appropriate for them. Yeesh. And so I got to talk to them, and you know, in our conversations, I had asked the teacher, well, "What are you guys making here? Like, you have these 3D printers humming along and all this stuff. What are you making?" And it was a keychain and other kind of, dare I call it, not to rag on a keychain, but nonsense. They were printing kind of nonsense things.
Doodads.
Doodads, love it, great. And in talking to them, I said, you know, if you were looking to connect with a group that has real problems you could all work on. I worked in a center, it was like 2 miles away, of people with physical disabilities who all day long encounter problems they need things fixed for, or they need things created or customized or whatever it might be. Why don't we connect your two groups? And we got them on a video call to talk to each other. And the students started asking questions like, if we could make anything for you, what would we make? And I'm telling you, one idea after another from the people with disabilities. How about this, this? And the kids were like, just mesmerized. They're like, well, okay, we can try to make that. And that became kind of the Center for People with Disabilities became a test bed for the STEAM group. And then they would work together. They'd get on video calls once a week and they would go through their projects. The students would show where they were. They would get feedback from the other people at the other center. They would go visit each other. So the kids from the school would field trip over. The people from the center would field trip over to the school. And they would have this kind of back and forth. Ultimately, at the end of the semester, what were they creating? Not doodads anymore, but like real life.
Yeah.
I don't know. Enlarged zipper pulls for a jacket, a buttoner for one hand that straps around my hand, like real world 3D printed solutions that made a difference for someone.
Mike, what I love about that story too is it started with an authentic somebody,
Yeah.
meaning we're going to connect to somebody who's actually having problems, because often I get called in the school district like, hey, we have some kids that want to 3D print something, and they really want to print a hand. Like someone, well, how many people want a 3D printed hand from students, right?
Correct.
What are some real problems that are solved? They're going to get if they need some sort of orthotic, they're going to go to a hospital and get something more professionally manufactured. Let's work. Yes, that's cool, but it's not.
Yes, and it is cool, right?
But it's not an authentic problem that anyone's
Correct.
having. Your story starts with actually going to the source of people.
Yeah, it might not feel as cool to look at as much as a 3D printed hand, but a one-handed belt loop or a button loop holder, I mean, that could be the difference between someone being independent and not. It's at the core. That's what we're trying to do. And these kind of things are great. This became a year-long experience in that school. It carried on to the next year. And in the best possible way, the things that are great, I was able to step away and it just kept going.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be there. They just found a way to work with each other.
Mike, something else about this, just to make sure we state it explicitly, like my daughter wanted to go to school because her poster was there, right? Most people still do not have 3D printers at home. So one of the reasons, so when the pandemic hit and then there was this giant call to, we got to get kids back to in-person learning. Oh, I knew a bunch of kids that did better outside of school, right?
Sure.
So what was it about getting back in the building? Well, one part of getting back in the building is this sort of hands-on creativity with equipment that you don't have at your home, know? So yeah, I got to go to school because I got to work on my 3D printed zipper thing, and I can work on the Tinkercad at home, but I can't print it at home. I got to go to school to print it. Now I need to be at that place.
I need to be there. Someone's relying on me, because I made a deal with someone that I was going to help them with this. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, purposeful,
Yeah, purposeful. Yeah, exactly. I love it.
So just a bunch of resources. We said, get the slide deck because there's a bunch of hyperlinks. You don't have to start from scratch. There are a bunch of different organizations that are all working on assistive technology or inclusive design related engineered stuff where you can already 3D print things, or they already get the files to start from and then iterate off of. And all of these are different places to explore. AT Makers is from our friend Bill Binko, who does Lesson Picks. Beth works for Lesson Picks, where that AT Makers is doing what Mike just said. How do I find a group of people? Let me help pair people who want to do something with people who need something done. AT Makers sort of helps bridge that gap. We won't go through all of them. There's just a bunch of places that you can go look and go explore what other people have done for either inspiration or to iterate on.
Yeah, exactly. Great stuff.
Yeah. And then, Mike, just to back up what you were saying, these are actual pictures of kids in school, the schools that I work with, high school maker clubs. this is just a side thing for me. We have in the past we've had sort of maker clubs and we've had assistive technology maker clubs or AT maker clubs. I really like the idea that they're just maker clubs, that it's not, well, this one's for this and this one's for, like, let's just work together to solve problems, and those problems can help a wide range of people with different abilities. So in this case, these kids were working on switches. Certainly, we use switches, and many students use switches in our school district. Those switches cost money, and we often have to. For years, we've had to buy them and then do something to them. Like, well, this switch doesn't have the right texture, so we're going to glue on, because the kid really needs to feel it, and the feeling is just smooth. So we got to put sandpaper and glue sandpaper on. Well, but then that rips off and it gets cruddy, and then it gets yucky and dirty. But what if we 3D printed it with sort of sandpaper texture now, right? And so same thing, Mike. These kids, what we did is we said, I reached out to some OTs and PTs and classroom teachers, and I said, could you be the people giving feedback to these high schoolers that are working on these design projects on how to make switches? And then sure enough, the kids made the switches, brought them out to those classrooms. The educators and the students in those classrooms tried them and then gave feedback like, hey, we actually need this to be more of a square or a rectangle, or the edges are kind of too sharp, or look, did you notice that the screws are sticking up a little bit? That's dangerous. You don't want it. Like, these are the things you learn about as a student. You might not necessarily recognize, or even as any designer, you don't recognize until that the user in the back end goes, yeah, but this would be better,
Oh, I love the idea. I could sit on this slide for 3 days and just enjoy it and just kind of revel in it. Chris, I'm going to tell you a funny story about my very first day in the field of assistive technology, my first day of work 30 plus years ago. I got this job. I didn't know what it meant, what it was supposed to do. No idea. They're like, oh, on your first day of work, don't come in at 9 o'clock, because we have a meeting tonight with families in our community. Come in at 2, but you have to stay till 9. I'm like, okay, whatever. Great. First day. I get there and they're like, we're going to be having tonight a community lab where we're going to ask parents and people in the community to adapt toys for switches and make our own switches. And so my very first day of work was building exactly the kind of things that are on this slide. And I remember how much fun it was. And the idea being, and Chris mentioned this idea of the switches are expensive. Like, to buy a switch is expensive. To make a switch, not nearly as expensive, obviously. And so we're having an opportunity here to utilize the students in a situation like this, or in my case, parents, to multiply our ability to provide access to other people, because we can make more of these items.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Oh, Mike, just to also mention that back in those days, like when you're making those switches, it was probably made, I'm going to guess, out of like old CD cases,
That's exactly what it was, right? And that's a great point too. The idea of now we're 3D printing this. Before it was, I don't know, I got this thing that's got some flexibility and I'm going to add these pieces to it and make a switch out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we would do. Yeah.
And I often felt back in those days like, okay, well, we're sort of scrapping things together from what we can find to make a switch. And yes, it's functional, but it doesn't look cool. Like, it's not, it's yes. So you can hit the thing to do the thing. I can hit the switch to activate whatever I'm activating, but it doesn't look so. Why do kids with disabilities get things made from scraps, right? It shouldn't be that way, right? And now we don't. I mean, yes, we could still do that. It's all good learning from prototyping. Yes, prototype with all that stuff and even try it with kids for that. But that doesn't necessarily need to be your final product now. Now your final product can be, well, let's 3D print something. And if you're I'll say it, if you're a Patriots fan, we can put a Patriots logo on your thing. You know what I mean? And we can put your New York Giants logo, Mike. You can put your New York Giants logo on your thing because you're a Giants fan, right? Like, you can personalize it for whatever the thing is that you like, because we can 3D print it, and it can look cool and awesome, and you can have the cool stuff too.
Yeah, I agree. And everybody can do it. Democratized. Oh, it just keeps going. We can't stop.
Yeah, quick route. So the picture on the left again is my daughter during the pandemic working on making styluses. You can make your own stylus. We see that a lot. Well, how often does this happen? All right, this kid, we've decided, you know what, you need to hold this stylus to touch your Chromebook or your iPad or whatever. And that kid looks around and goes, yeah, okay. And then they use it once or twice and they never use it, or they lose it, or it's lost, right? And they're the only kid that actually has one or uses it. And so they feel a little awkward using it. And so what we've done is like, well, what if we did a little lesson where we showed everybody, make your own stylus and you can personalize it how you want. And you can, there's, again, on those previous sites, there's DIY, make your own stylus, but now make your own and anyone can use it and you personalize it. Once you've had some ownership over creating your thing, then you're much less likely to lose your thing. But if I just gave it to you, whatever, throw it in the backpack, it's gone, you know? And so that's my daughter, like working through how to make styluses. There's cool technology where you can scan yourself and make little, versions of yourself in 3D printing. There's my daughter cosplaying a Groot mask. And then just foreshadowing for what we're going to talk about here in a second is a lot of what we're talking about when we talk about making is hands-on making in a physical, tactile way. But I would also say that there are many learners that could and should be working in digital spaces. So you're creating and building things like Tinkercad. That's a digital space where you're rendering and building and making. And they're just, again, foreshadowing Minecraft is a great way to a great precursor to that kind of stuff.
Sure. Do you want it? Here you go. If you would like to 3D print a Christmas 3D ornament, Inclusive Learning 365, and who doesn't want that? Look, there's mine that hangs in my office right there. There's the link. It'll take you to the file and print away. Have at it. I would imagine you'd want to fill your entire tree with that. And then you'll take a picture of it and send it to us so we can see it. So that would be pretty great.
Or put it in your office, hang it up in your office, let other people know when you're like, what is this Inclusive 365? And then you show them your book on your shelf.
Card deck or your card deck. All right, we'll stop making for a second and we'll talk about math. And we'll come back to making things. I'm pretty sure we will. It's similar to what Chris just mentioned, this idea of, many of us are familiar with the idea of math manipulatives, the pieces that we use in our classrooms for students to work through in a very concrete way the processes of math, chips or boxes or things that snap together, whatever it might be. But how about the idea of digital manipulatives that do the same thing and provide another way if a student's not able to do the actual manipulatives to kind of, I was going to say play and learn math. I'm going to still say it, play and learn math. This gives you that opportunity. There's plenty of tools out there. These are free tools that live out on the internet that are all web-based that you can get to from any device, which is the beauty of this. And you have that ability to take those manipulatives, snap them together, do what you need to do, change the way they look or the type of manipulative you have to let someone work through or to assist them as they work through their math problems. So the idea here is don't give up on the concept of math manipulatives if someone's not able to physically manipulate them in a space because they can digitally. There you go. There's a little math for you. Oh, but we're coming back. Let's swing it around.
Like I mentioned, Matt. Well, you mentioned Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
This Minecraft, so many kids love to be in it. So many kids love to create in it and make things in it and do things in it. And it's perfect for math, right? Look at the little picture up there with the 3 yellow blocks plus the 2 blue blocks equals 5 blocks. Like you can do that sort of stuff over. And the next picture over, that's learning about longhouses and two kids building a longhouse together. But then again, could that be math? Well, how long is the longhouse and how many people could fit in there and how tall is it? And that, like, all sorts of good learning there. Below, you can see, so there's animals in Minecraft. So let's build a pen for our pigs. Well, how many pigs and how big and how would they eat? And you can do perimeter, right, around the outside of that. Again, all great stuff. Over there, not, I mean, it's sort of related to math. It's signs labeling things in your build so that you could, again, put some math in there explaining, okay, why did I do the thing I did? Or why is the number the way it is? It's because this is the math I use, and you can write that on little signs posted around the Minecraft space. Again, Mike, Beth and I recorded the SEL, and part of that SEL video was talking about how behavior is a hot topic in schools since the pandemic. Behaviors are through the roof. When I say behaviors, I mean kids not being on task and going off and do. Well, here, engage them with Minecraft, play with a tool that they would love to use, and invite them to create in this space, that art in the Steam, but it all weaves together rather than fighting upstream and asking them to do terrible worksheets that they don't want to do. Invite them to build in here.
Yeah, yeah. You're
These are all
getting,
screenshots.
yeah, you're getting to the end result you're looking for. And Chris is right. Instead of beating your head against the wall to get there, why not embrace some of these spaces and maximize their use for that learning? I love it.
All right, block coding real quick. This is another one, Mike, that when I do sessions on block coding and robots for AAC, and those sessions when I had conferences and things, usually 10 people at the most are in those rooms, you know, where some of the other rooms are packed with 50 or 100 people. Because there's this mentality that, oh, coding, it's just too hard. I hear coding, that's some person that looks like the comic book guy from The Simpsons eating Cheetos in a dark room someplace. That's not me. We don't do that, right? And that's not at all what it is, right? It's inevitably when people go to those sessions and by the end they're like, why didn't I do this sooner? This is so fun and easy. All it is putting puzzle pieces in an order, and there doesn't necessarily have to be a right order. You just put things in a sequence, hit a play button, and then stuff happens based off of that sequence. So on this particular screen, we're looking at Scratch, but most of the block coding or coding programs work the same, where there's sort of a left hand, or there's an area where there are puzzle pieces. There's an area where you build those puzzle pieces together, and then there's an area where you see what happens when you hit the play button when those puzzle pieces are put in that order, right? And so in this case, what we're looking at is, you can see that something called Go by someone named Tucker and AJ. Tucker is my son. AJ was his best friend at the time. And I invited them to create a game in Scratch where you hit switches, essentially hit an enter key or a tab key on your keyboard, and then different things would come across the screen with the word go. So, hey, dude, I work with kids that are learning AAC. They're learning language. One of the words they need to learn is stop and go. Can you create a program in Scratch to teach stop and go? And sure enough, they did, where you hit the button, and an airplane drives across the screen and it says go. Very simple coding, all by dragging puzzle pieces over. And Mike, I thought maybe, I know we don't have much time left, but I thought I would just take a second if you shared the screen with me and gave me, I would show a different tool to just give people an example of how just easy this is. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my entire screen. Okay, so over here, can you see my screen, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so the next slide down is the Sam robot. And this is, again, oh, well, Chris, I don't have robots. These are virtual things you can use, right? Free. Note, I'm not logged in anywhere. What this is called a root robot. And it was made by the same company that does the vacuum cleaner stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but the iRobot vacuum cleaners. All right, here's the idea. There's all these different activities that you can do. I just pulled out one called drawing a P. So like I said, there's a place where there's puzzle pieces, there's a place where you build the puzzle pieces, and then there's something that happens. And the challenge here is, can you get this virtual robot to make the letter P? So over here, I am going to, I need it to go 1 block north, Mike. So I'm going to drag this over here, and it's going to go 1 forward. All right, Mike, tell me what happens next. How do I get to the next one?
We have to go, we have to go up 1 more.
All right, 1 more up, and then I need
Oh.
it to,
Then we got to go right 1.
okay, so it's going to turn.
Right. And then we're going to go down 1. Where are we? Yeah, we're going to go down 1.
All right.
It's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Oh, well, see, no, there isn't a down one. It's a move forward. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah, okay.
let's see how we did. Just
Yeah, let's say, yeah.
an issue of time. Okay, you got it. And then it turned, and then it moved 1 forward, right? But then we needed to turn
We
again,
need it to turn again.
and then we needed to
And
move
it
forward
goes
again,
forward 1 more time.
and then we needed
And
to
then
turn
a
again.
turn. And 1 more.
Okay. And did we do it?
I think we did it.
Oh no, I didn't hit the start button.
Oh, no.
I got to hit the restart because I started where I left off. So let me stop.
By the way, we did it. It did work.
Yeah. And there's also putting the marker down.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So when we hit it again, now it's going to put a marker down next time and start drawing it. All right. Long story short, see how easy this is to reset.
There he is.
There we go.
Success. Success.
All right. I'll stop sharing there and go back to the slide deck. But you see how that is not complicated at all.
Right.
You're just moving puzzle pieces. You're making mistakes. You're fixing those mistakes. Oh, what did I do wrong there? All great, failing forward. Coding being I think a skill, sort of like we in the world of generative AI, we're talking about how you need to learn how to read and write. So when you're using generative AI, you work with it as a partner, right? Well, same thing with coding. I need to be able to learn how to code so that when I'm using generative AI to code in my future job, I know how to debug it and I actually have some background knowledge. You can't just do it for me. I need to, so I still am an integral part of it as the human. And I think coding is going to continue to be a skill that more people need in the future. And this is a fun way for kids to do it. Like, look how much fun that would be to drive a virtual robot around, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had a picture. I meant to put the picture in and I was like, no, we're going to be running out of time. I worked with a class in the same school with the STEAM teacher. I had actually been brought in to work with a class with robots to kind of engage them in learning. And as we were talking about, we were trying to use them for math. And the teacher had said, how can I get the students to use this robot? And it was one of those where you code it on there. It was, what is that one called, Chris? The B-bot.
The B-bot, yeah.
Yeah. So it has the buttons on it and then you hit play and it does whatever you're going to do. And she's like, but I want them to count at the same time. And then we realized in the hallway, the squares in the hallway were all 12 by 12. And so we all went in the hallway and we started counting squares, programmed it into the mouse, and off it went. And that became the math lesson. And it was simple coding.
Awesome. So there's links to try them out. Mentioning the Bbot, Mike. In fact, there's a slide on it here because Bbot has I'll get to it in a second. Go ahead. You can move past this one. There's pop culture. The Hour of Code has all these cool Star Wars and Frozen, and there's a Minecraft one in here, and sports where they teach you block coding but using your favorite characters. And then, like you mentioned, the Bbot, I think that's coming up next.
There it is. Yeah, there he is.
So there's, like you said, this is a tactile robot, but there's a free emulator that they have that you click on that link and you'll see it. It takes you to this mat, and the Bbot there is in the center, and you hit the virtual buttons there to spell things out. But note there's a drop down where it says alphabet mat. there's a map that you can use, and there's math things there you can use, but the kids are coding the robot to move around the mat. Just like you were saying, they were coding the physical robot to move around the floor.
And it was so interesting. This class was so engaged by the idea of the robot and the coding it to what it would do, that this activity moved from math to science to language arts, and the teacher worked to find different ways to bring the robot back into it. The class each person drew a picture from a story they were reading, and they put it on a map on the floor, and someone had to code the robot to walk the story. Where did we go first, and where did we go second, and where did we go third? And this was the way that she brought them into it. And I mean, that B-bot got a workout in that classroom. And it was funny because when I first came to talk to her about it, she said the only reason she had it is because they bought it and no one else wanted it in the school. So she's like, I'll take it. And then she's like, I don't know, can you make this thing work with my kids? Here's my kids. Here's what we have to do. Make this thing work with it. And suddenly that thing was like the MVP of the year at that point. It was constantly working. It was great. Oh, and we've already seen some of this. Chris showed you with the emulator, the idea of telling the robot where to go and then having the marker attached to it. Well, you could do that in real life too. If you have one of these robots, the picture on the right with the dot and the dash robots, attaching a marker to them and then control them around a paper, doing art. The picture on the left is one of my colleagues here in New Jersey. She works with students with significant physical disabilities, and they take a Sphero, so that's the little ball robot that's controlled on your iPad, and they put it in a box and put a piece of paper with some paint on it, and you roll the Sphero around, and then you create an artwork, a piece of art in the box. And then you just simply take the ball and wipe it off the robot, and off we go. We do the next person. So thinking creatively about how to use these. And I love this idea of these robots. You know, I mentioned the B-bot with the waving through the story, or I've seen this same classroom with the art here. Put a picture representation of the human body, and they roll the Sphero through it, and the students have to talk about the different parts of the digestive tract and talk about, so they're bringing it into that science activity as well. So lots of different ways to bring these robots in. Oh, and some music. Why not? Before we go, this is a good way for you to get some music into your life here. Thinking about making music, helping the students kind of express themselves virtually, a couple different ways. On the right is GarageBand, old tried but true. If you have Macs and iOS devices, or if you're looking for web-based tools, Chrome has a really nice suite of free tools called the Music Lab. Lots of different options there about ways to create music, and visualizations are attached to it and things like that. So if that's the experience you're trying to promote in your classroom, there's two really quick, easy ways to do that with music.
Everyone loves music.
I love music. Who doesn't love music?
All right, Mike, this is Beth and I in the SEL video talk a little bit about gaming, and this is just another quick way to work with numbers and make them. It was dice and rolling dice and different types of dice. You know, I mentioned in that you're not surprised, Mike. I mentioned that I play Dungeons and Dragons, so we use 20-sided dice and 8-sided dice and all sorts of funny dice. But there's all cool ways to adapt those dice and different types of device. There's digital versions, but then there's put them in Tupperware. Again, what a great problem to invite kids to solve is, all right, well, this particular person holding a dice in their hand and dropping it or rolling it is not going to work. We need to come up with some other sort of way to adapt. We could use, you know, online stuff for free, or how do we make something tactile? And I just think it's a fun way to work with numbers.
Yeah, I think it's great. I was in a classroom and I saw a teacher had customized the dice for the game they were using and put it in a jug with a handle, so you could grab the handle and shake it and then drop it down on the ground. I was like, wait, and look at any empty jar or jug that you have, preferably not glass, obviously. And you might be able to make something creative and customized for the learners in your classroom. I love it.
All right, I think we're finishing up with augmented reality. So, Mike, you are the one who introduced me to the Merge Cube. And we do, again, mention this in the SEL video, so I won't go too deep into it. But virtual reality, Merge Cube just being one option, is you hover your phone over something, or doesn't have to be your phone, any mobile device or anything that has the AR capability, and it augments something so it looks like it's there in reality through the screen that you're watching on. So in the images here, you see an alligator. Well, the image itself is coded so that when you hover your device over it, a 3D image of a alligator appears over the letter A, appears over the image, right? There's one of, you see Bumblebee there. It's a Transformer coloring page. When you hover over it, Bumblebee emerges out of there, right? And so there's all sorts of fun ways, again, super engaging for learners to see their world, see another layer on top of the world of reality, right? And again, when you think about the future, how many people will be working in a space that is using augmented reality, where yes, there's a augmented layer superimposed on the real layer that I'm working on to give me advice, to look things up, to show me what to do. Sort of like, Mike, like I'm looking forward to the day. I know it's the future, but I'm looking forward to the day where I could put on glasses and fix my toilet or fix my right.
And it
Because
would
right now
give
I'm
you
doing
the
it on
information.
YouTube, you know. But yeah, just giving up real, yeah, sort of like an Iron Man helmet, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we're starting to see with things like the meta glasses and things like that. You're seeing that idea of that tool becoming more useful for the kinds of experiences we're trying to search for. Like, how does it superimpose information on the screen so I can see it? One of the things I had really exciting when I saw a pilot of it was someone using AR glasses, similar to like the Meta glasses, and they had programmed their phone. This was about independent movement in the community for people with autism, for adults with autism. And this idea of, I know where I have to go. I don't always feel comfortable getting there. So with the AR glasses, as I go out my door, the glasses have superimposed an arrow on the street so I know which way to go. And I get to a corner and it tells me the next arrow. And maybe there's one of the experiences I had with an adult I was working with autism, he knew the way to get from his house to his job, which was maybe like 3 or 4 blocks away. He knew how to walk there and get there. But one day he called his mom in a panic because they were doing construction on the sidewalk and he couldn't walk the same way he normally did. And he had no way to navigate around. He only knew that sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And I remember his mom telling me, I was talking to him, I was saying, just look for cars and cross the street and walk around it and come back. And he just couldn't do that. And so what did he do? He turned around and went home because that's the way he knew he knew what to do. And I, when talking to her about it, I was like, I've seen this thing they're working on where if he had hit that barrier on the sidewalk, the little arrow might have backtracked him to the last intersection, cross the street and go around it, and he'd be able to move through. And I think it's a very real world example of kind of this superimposed information, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Chris held up his Merge Cube. The Merge Cube's about the size, here, I'm old school, or Rubik's Cube. So if you don't know a Rubik's Cube, go look that up, and then you'll know the size of both of those things. It's a foam box. It's a foam cube. Each side of that cube has basically what amounts to a QR code on it, right? It's just a QR code because as you're holding up your device to it, it's scanning that code and superimposing something on top of it. Look about 3/4 of the way down on that list there on the slide. There is a link there to print your own Merge Cube. Chris is holding the actual Merge Cube. It's a foam cube. You can buy it. You don't need to buy the cube to do this. You can print your own and put it on a cardboard box. You can print it and simply fold it and tape it together, and you have a cube. I've seen people take the Merge Cube and put it on a giant box, like make it really large, and then you have a giant Merge Cube. I've seen people take the pictures from the Merge Cube boxes and iron them onto a shirt, and then the person becomes part of the Merge Cube. So there's a lot of ways you can manipulate that to do the things you want it to do. So you don't, just because you don't have the box, don't worry that you don't have the cube.
There's my wife holding the merge cube and then
Holding the solar system in her hand.
the power of the sun in her hand.
Power. But there's a great representation of what the cube gives you. Now, as Melissa's holding the solar system, if she pivots, what happens? The whole solar system changes its orientation in front of me. And now I can experience the different parts of it. And that sheer power of holding everything in your hand. Really cool. One of the really neat Merge Cube apps that's out there allows you to upload a 3D print file you're working on, and then it gives you the representation. Remember, Chris talked about the birdhouse and the words not attaching to it. If you uploaded the file into the Merge app and looked at it, as you spun it, you would see that those words weren't connected. You're seeing the actual birdhouse in front of you. Super cool. Check that out, Merge Cube. All right, everybody, we did it. Chris and I could have easily talked for way longer than that, which is really funny. I feel like we did a great job, Chris, of controlling ourselves just a little bit.
Yeah, we got a bunch of the stories in, practical ones that people can really use. What do we think people should reflect on, Mike?
You know, I think as you do this, well, first of all, I think you should reflect on the idea that these things in this section are not nearly as scary as you think they are.
Yes.
I mean, I think that it starts there. And then I love the idea on the slide, because I think it's what we constantly go back to, and it's authentic problem solving. How do you do that with the areas of what we've been talking about? You know, there's always, and here I am, I'll give props to keychains and doodads. There's a space for that. I think that's a really good first step to understand the connection between what I think I've created and what I see that I've created, and making that jump of working operationally with the tools. Great. You want to do that? Great. You want to print a keychain? Great. You got to move past that at some point. You have to move to the next step and make deeper connections. You know, I'd like to think that some of the students in that middle school with that STEAM program that were connected to the center in the community, I'd like to think there's a future AT person in that group. I'd like to think there's one student that was like, wait, I like solving problems to help someone be successful. And hopefully they will move through, you know, that idea of empathy and working with others and problem solving and being helpful to other people. It's awesome. I mean, it's really what this is all about. So I gave you a very long answer for that, but I think those are mine. What is yours? What do you think someone should reflect on?
The authentic problem part
of
what we're talking about here is that school doesn't have to be a scripted, the entirety of school doesn't have to be a scripted, rote, follow this structure. It can be a place to design and make mistakes and solve authentic problems, so that you have a purpose for being there, not just being there because some adult told you to be there. I want to be there because people are relying on me. And that starts with problems. And there's, like I said, there's no shortage of problems that kids would be invested in. That could be part of our task as educators, to be like, what can I hook their interest in? You know, what can I get them working on that would solve the problem, or that would make them want to be here, you know?
And, you know, we talk about this idea of AI, and sometimes people are very reluctant to embrace AI. AI could be a great tool to help with some of these problem solving situations.
Yeah.
How would I do this? Let's see what it says. And can I take that? And then can I apply that to something that I'm working on?
Mm-hmm. Or as an educator going, all right, I need to teach this standard. What are some authentic problems that I could come up with to invite learners to connect it? If you're like, I'm not sure what I got this standard, I'm not sure how to do that. AI can help.
Another great example of that educator who doesn't feel comfortable with this section, embolden yourself by using AI to help you move through it. AI can be your friend.
Love it. Love it. All right.
As we go forward, here's one more plug for our infographic for Questions Inclusive Educators Ask. Please feel free, download it. post it up somewhere in your space. Get the conversation going with other people you work with about how you can be more inclusive in your experiences. So, Chris, maybe they'll go see the other ones. Maybe they've done all the other ones already. Maybe this is it. 9 parts to this.
Could be. Hope you got to watch them all. Hope you enjoyed them. I hope you are enjoying them if you're in the middle of watching them. And thanks for participating. Go have fun making stuff with STEAM experiences.
Yeah, go make. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Are you a New Jersey educator looking for support or professional development tailored to your district's AT needs? We offer free, customized training and coaching for NJ teachers, paraprofessionals, and families. From hands-on workshops to individual classroom support and small group facilitation, we're here to help. Visit us at atcenter.tcnj.edu to learn more. Have a question? Contact us at atcenter@tcnj.edu. Please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content on all things assistive technology.